everybody. Welcome back to Powerbombshells episode 24. We're just two broads talking about the wrestling that we watched. I'm Sam.
And I am Mel. Definitely Mel.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I remember before I came in here that I needed to change my name. I was like, oh, and Nikki is not here this week, so let me fix that. And Nikki is not John Cena sitting over here to the side, or little Jimmy for that matter. Yes.
But, but we appreciate that Nikki was here last week.
Yes, we had a good time. I'm glad that she was on. She had a lot of fun, and I'm sure she will be back at some point, and we will chat about some more wrestling.
I got to meet her. That's really the most important
exactly
thing.
Exactly.
And so you missed that, and
yeah, and now it's Bob's turn to come on, so I can meet him at some point if you can convince him at some point.
We'll get him on soon.
Good.
It's going to be the season when he has a little more time to watch.
Oh, good.
So
yeah,
that. Plus, sometimes I'm just like flipping it on right by him, like listening to this book. So
yeah. So there's been a lot. It seems like there's always something kind of eventful happening in wrestling these days.
Wrestling, what the hell?
I know. That's like, I mean, at first I thought, oh, we'll just be it's G1 season. That'll be our focus. And then, no. WWE's got to go ahead and they're doing all kinds of things, and AEW's bringing in people, and it seems like it's nonstop.
Hey, I'm glad that we're not hard. I mean, you are a little bit with the DDT. You have to kind of hardcore cover this stuff. I'm glad I'm not someone that has to hardcore cover this, because it seems like, okay, it'll be fine today, and then like 2:00 and here's like some other ridiculous scandal that is making, and it's the publicly traded portion of it that's making it something that has like a mainstream importance.
Finally.
So it's weird to see it in places that you almost never see it. Like the morning news talking about these things or whatever not, and it's like, I mean, I get that we're a territory and everything, like once upon a time, but whoa, dude.
Yeah. Well, the one good thing about it is it brings more legitimacy to it. And so, I mean, it shouldn't have taken all of that to do that, because it's still, even no matter what you think of pro wrestling, it's still a sport, and it still involves human beings. And some of those human beings are greedy and terrible and do awful things and should be punished for it. And the world should know about it. It shouldn't be blown off as, oh, that's just wrestling. No, this stuff is
fake.
Yeah, exactly.
All of it is fake.
Right. Exactly. So, yes. So, so basically that big story has kind of domino affected, other companies and what's happening there. And so I was like, I'm basically leading myself into a later conversation and skipping ahead. But we can hold that thought and get back to some other stuff first.
We'll get to that.
We'll definitely get to it. But so I guess we'll start with the most recent thing. Well,
yeah, right.
Sort of.
We're the first show that
we are
goes up this week on this one. So
yeah,
we get, ha everyone else. We get the first hot takes.
That's right. Well, you're gonna listen to them.
The hottest.
So last night was Battle of the Belts, which is AEW's quarterly show that they do, their 1-hour event that's supposed to be a big deal. Last night kind of not really felt like it. I mean, it had good matches, but they didn't I saw some complaints about how they're not building it up. But I was like, I think it's also because there's just 9 million things. And on top of that, AEW has been doing a lot of their, they did the Shark Week related shows where they intertwine that. They've done Fight for the Fallen. They're doing Quake by the Lake next week. So it just seems like it's a lot of what is the word I'm looking for? Not gimmick shows, but it seems like they're all kind of branded where I guess they're all on the same level. So it doesn't make it didn't make Battle of the Belts stand out as much as it did say back in January when they ran the first one. Like, and I think that's fine. Like, I don't think it's an hour show. It's not a big deal. I don't think they have to build it up like all out or anything like that. But I saw some people kind of complaining about that last night about how they didn't make it feel like a big deal. But I was like, I mean, they had really good. I thought the main event was a really big deal.
No, the main event was awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's the sort of frustration I had where it was like I had to keep reminding myself, and then it still took me till yesterday during the day where I was like, you know, Jim Valley's Observer Live. He reminded me basically that I was like, oh crap, yeah, because he was talking about it, and I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah,
sure, just in case, even though it's an hour. And it's, I mean, I kind of knew a little more because it was, I mean, it's across the state from here, but it was still in state, so it was something that I, you know, you kind of have in your mind.
Yeah,
okay, that's happening here.
Yeah,
but it's almost like they've had a post Forbidden Door hangover. I don't know. And not like exactly right directly after Forbidden Door, but sort of like kind of in the middle there. I mean, some of the numbers have suffered, and like it's
I don't think
like this is a big event right here, and it's like I didn't remember it was happening. Is that me or is that them? Is it a combination of both?
I think it is. It probably is a combination of both. There's so much going on, and then now there's the whole WWE aspect to it, and people are like freaking out about WWE's ratings being better than AEW's for like a week. And I'm like, I mean, first of all, I think ratings are just it's a conversation I check out of a lot just because I don't I mean, I get it to an extent, but on the other hand, it doesn't affect how I do my part. Like, I watch the shows that I want to watch. I don't flip the channel during the women's matches. I don't change the channel at all. Like, I leave it there, even if I'm not necessarily paying attention to picture in picture, or if I'm like, you know, going to the bathroom or anything like that. So, I mean, I think the ratings conversation takes a lot of, I mean, some people are super into it, and maybe it's just because I'm not a math person, and maybe that's why I don't care, but I'm like, it's just, I think it takes away from it. Like, I mean, AEW having lower ratings isn't gonna make me like be like, oh, well, it's because it's boring. I'm gonna watch it regardless. Like, I don't really care about, I mean, I get why it's important. Like, I completely understand that. It's just, sometimes I think it seems like before AEW, no one really cared about ratings. I mean, they did to an extent, but it's since AEW has been around, it's just this overkill of it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just too much at times.
I think it does make the main line, like Twitterverse, whatever, wrestling Twitterverse and social media, it does make the main line a little bit more. And I think some people are just like hate involved into it because they love to troll.
Yeah. And they love and then so now they're using ratings as like a reason to hate a company, and I'm like, or to like, and I'm like, who gives a shit? It's
say that the ratings don't affect you at all. And it's like, well, first of all, you like completely misinterpreted that anyway, but and
especially when it's numbers like those Fast Nationals that are released on Fridays that nobody knew about. Nobody outside of like TV people and entertainment people even know about fast ratings, but because WWE started using that as a tactic for SmackDown versus Rampage, when the full numbers that doesn't count DVRs, and it doesn't count what people watch over the weekend and all that crap. Nobody gives a shit about Fast Nationals, but they've made it a thing now because it's this AEW versus WWE mentality. Like, that one has to be better. Listen,
Raw and
SmackDown aren't going away. Dynamite's not going away. Like, AEW is not. I mean, Impact is still doing their stuff, even though they should be on a different channel where they get more viewing because their product has gotten much better. But like, they're not going away. ROH will eventually be on TV once they. Who knows now, because of this whole HBO Max thing, which I don't completely understand because I don't immerse myself in that stuff. And so just like, I'll just tell me where to watch ROH and I'll watch it. Like, that's all I care about. But I feel like it just takes away And I think just most people don't care. They just use it as they see a tweet and that, oh, Raw beat AEW this week in ratings. And so they use that as their argument to troll people, like you were
saying. Have a general understanding. Yeah. As someone who is not overly nerdy about it, but is interested in so much as I have a, small like economic understanding because I nerd-holed it one day and or not one day. I mean, I went through a period of time.
Yeah.
But it was specifically because I was trying to understand certain things so that I could teach myself.
Sure.
And so, but I am interested in so much as it's making sure that this product continues to be successful. And that's how they'll always measure that is. So I want to make sure, like, for me, it's like I look at that and go, thank God it's healthy. I don't have to worry about it. It's going to get, because right now it's even like Impact gets its better channel or like better ratings or more time. It gets that because it's performing somewhere that, and wrestling, I mean, the only reason that I think it's important is because, like, they make this point all the time, is in a certain demographic that's super important to keeping TV functioning.
Yeah.
You need it, like, not just put together, I think, but it's like, you need it so that your wrestling ends up, it's a rising tide raises all ships.
Sure.
That's the only interest I ever have in it. I think it's
well, then that's understandable, and that makes sense. Like, I can get that part of it, but I just don't get the panic. Like,
the nerd troll hole that is ratings.
Yeah.
That is a whole section that doesn't matter. And it is. It's the people, it's the same people that are like, are you wearing a red shirt or a blue shirt? Like, it's a lot of like banner waving, and it's like, why can't we just like what we like?
Right.
Like, you watch yours and I'll watch mine. And I mean, too many times do I find that if I just am talking to another wrestling fan, even if it's like, oh, you watch this one, well, I watch this one.
Yeah.
But I can still say things to that person and they are at least tuning in because they can have a conversation with me. So
yeah. Right.
There's a lot of wrestling fans out there. I do think that it is overhyped. I think it does.
And I just, people are like panicking. Some people are panicking right now. And I'm like, well, WWE, of course, is going to get more attention because there's all these rumors.
Curiosity.
Because I was like I've even tuned in some here and there just to see, like, because there were some rumors last week that Sasha and Naomi were coming back, and I was like, it wasn't from I never saw like not that they are not credible, but I never saw multiple sources. But I wanted to see also, because what they did with the women on, how they did it at SummerSlam, and I was curious to see, like, is Triple H for real, or is this just because he knows people are paying attention? Is it gonna be like long-term stuff? Like we mentioned last week, like, I'm glad people are excited, but it's also WWE, and they are known to get people excited and then not follow through. And so then there's been, like, I had heard that Karrion Kross was coming back, or that they were interested in bringing him back. I didn't expect him to come back as early as Friday, and actually I missed it because the main thing, we just had it on because we were waiting for Rampage to come on, and I was watching the Braves game anyway. Like, we had it on the iPad, SmackDown, because we wanted to see, we were watching mainly for the women's gauntlet tournament to see if they were going to bring anybody back. And then, like, the main event was Roman versus Drew, and Nikki was like, I don't really care about this. And I was like, I don't either. She's like, do you care if I change it? And I was like, no. And then Karrion Kross came back, but I'm not a Karrion Kross fan. I don't get, I know some people are super into him. Like, I caught him at the end of his Impact run, and people were telling me, they're like, oh, that no wonder you're not into him, because it was kind of not great. And then I didn't get the hype for him in NXT. Like, good for him for getting a job, especially in this economy and how things are going. So, like, I'm good for him and Scarlett for getting jobs, but it does not, I don't care that they're back. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I was like, well, good for them. And then poor Karrion is just trying to get paid, and he's just getting cooked all day long on Twitter. And the memes have been, and it has been more entertaining than him, for me at least. But some people like Karrion, so good. Good for. I'm glad he's back for you guys. Like, but he's not somebody, like, he's definitely not somebody I would tune in for. But then, so now they're teasing the women's tag team tournament is starting on Monday.
I heard that.
That was supposed to have happened as soon as they stripped Naomi and Sasha of their titles, and then it didn't, and it's just been sitting there. So it feels like this is more of a ratings grab. Like, are they coming back or are they not? And it is. And and I don't necessarily blame them for that. But so these ratings are going to continue when they're doing stuff like that. And if this tournament, so even if, let's say, Sasha and Naomi are coming back, they're likely not going to be on the first part of this tournament, because then why are you, like, they're going to be, if they're doing like a team thing, they might be the last team that shows up. So that might be 3 weeks from now. So they're going to keep, so the ratings are going to keep building because you're going to keep tuning in. And then another rumor that's going around is they're in Cleveland tomorrow, which is where, and Johnny Gargano is from the area. Now people are wondering, people have already wondered, and I am wearing a Johnny Gargano shirt that I just bought off of eBay. I mainly got it because I do love Johnny Gargano, but I also love
it's a really cool shirt, though.
It is. And it was funny because I went to get, but thank you. I've been looking for some Kevin Owens stuff. And he has I knew he had a Panda shirt back in the day, and he has a new one now, but I don't really want to give WWE any money. Yeah. So I was looking to see if somebody on eBay was selling their old Kevin Owens stuff, and I haven't found anybody selling the Panda one, but I found this one from Johnny Gargano, and it ended up that I didn't even realize it when I bought it. It came, and I was like, what is this? Because it was from Charlotte, and I didn't realize the person I bought it from was a girl who lives in Charlotte. But yeah, so I was like, so of course, so I've kind of tuned in because I have a feeling Johnny probably will most likely come back at some point. I don't know if he's ready to come back. I know he's been teasing some stuff with Blake Christian and him have kind of teased some stuff on the indies. So, but I think that, there's definitely more of a possibility now than there was maybe 2 months ago. So, and now that's another thing. So it's kind of like AEW when they were signing people and people were just showing, like, people were tuning in to see if they were to show up. That's what WWE is doing now. And so I think that ratings situation is, and it's smart. I don't think that they're doing what they should do.
Anything to get people talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're talking about it. We don't even watch WWE. So, but yeah. So I think people. So the ratings, yeah, probably for a few weeks, maybe for the next month or so. Maybe it will increase, and Dynamite's going to have to do some things or AEW is going to have to do some things to make sure they're not losing, a whole lot of ground. But on the other hand, they're on different nights, like other than Fridays, but SmackDown is over before Rampage comes on, so they can watch both things if they want to. So like, it doesn't really, there's not that, it's not like they're head to head. It's not like the Monday Night Wars or anything like that. It's not even NXT versus Dynamite anymore at this point. So
not even close.
Yeah. So it's like people gotta relax a little bit, and good for them. Competition is a good thing. Competition is healthy, and it should bring out the best in you, and it should make you do better, which again, we'll get to that part later. But
and more people get jobs that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care about Karrion Kross at all, but good for him for getting paid. He's got a job. He's secured the bag. His wife is back with the company, and good for both of them. I hope that they're happy, and I hope they do well, and I hope they treat Karrion way better than they did the last time he was on the Raw roster, because that was terrible. Even though Drew McIntyre made a really funny tweet about it later that night after he got jumped by Karrion. So yeah.
Well, and the fact that didn't have to get pulled down immediately lets you know that, in fact, Vince McMahon is not in charge.
No, and another way that he's not in charge, because I changed it, I missed it until a friend of mine clipped it on their Twitter account that Drew McIntyre called Roman Reigns the tribal queef. So I was like, yeah, Vince is definitely not in charge anymore. This is not Vince's WWE, at least not these last 2 weeks. Will they go back to doing some Vince type stuff? Probably. But Triple H is trying to make this, his show and make it, let people know that he's there. So he's just gonna, I guess, give people more control, even though we got to be careful with that because, we've seen what happens with Max Caster when he gets full reign of things. And we have Jungle Boy saying misogynistic things on TV, which was a whole other issue. But yeah.
I mean, as far as, just to sort of put a pin in the WWE like ratings deal is, I'm not going to be participating in their ratings increasing, and that's just how I feel, and it's going to be a long time. I'm going to be one of the people waiting to see,
and that's completely understandable.
No, I know you understand. It's because, like, I mean, I had a friend who watched Impact, and that was after telling me for a long time, I've been burned too many times by that promotion. You'll never get my money again. And like, I'm looking forward to a day that I am wrong. Like, I can turn that on and feel okay about it. And that just day hasn't arrived for me. And I'm glad that all those things we just said, but that's where it's like, for me, that's where I
think a lot of fans are in that mindset and that's why I think a lot of people are hesitant.
Hate on the thing.
Yeah, like Triple Yeah. And like Triple H and Triple H is like, he's doing, like we talked about, he can do the bare minimum and people will be excited and be happy.
The bar is like,
because the bar is, like you said,
under rock bottom, on a dumpster fire.
Exactly. So I mean, and I'm not saying he shouldn't, I mean, good for him, but on the other hand, it's not like the bar is not high and it doesn't take much. I mean, obviously I'm glad that they brought back, Bailey was coming back anyway, and I'm glad they finally listened to her, because from what I've read, she's been trying to get the stable off the ground for a couple of years. And I read a quote today, and she said, like, she had gone to Triple H before about it. And because originally, I mean, I have heard that Vince turned it down, which I'm not surprised, but apparently she's also gone to Triple H about it before as well. And for whatever reason, I don't know if he said no or maybe later or whatever. And then she said once she got injured, like, she kind of thought about it some more and was like, I want to bring up some women who are not, who aren't getting a fair shake on Raw or SmackDown, or they've never been to WrestleMania, and maybe I can help them get a WrestleMania moment, which is that's a really cool thing that she's wanting to, because now she's at that level that she can elevate other women with her. And which is interesting because, we've talked about it before with like the four horsewomen, how Bianca sort of is probably the closest, but like nobody is on the level of any of the four horsewomen, and they're not booked that way. So now having one of the four horsewomen say, okay, I will use my spot to help elevate the division and bring these women up with me, I think is really good. And I hope that's something that continues. But again, it's in the very, very early stages, and I'm very, very, that's why I tell people I would be extremely, you can be optimistic, but be cautiously optimistic, because we know how things go there, and
but enjoy it. Enjoy it.
And
enjoy it, please.
But don't be surprised when the other shoe drops. Either. So hopefully it figures out. But anyway, we'll move on back. We'll get back to Battle of the Belts. Since we are the first people who get to talk about it. And so the opening match was for the TNT Championship. It was Wardlow versus Jay Lethal. There's been quite a bit of build up for this. Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh have just kind of been harassing people, and then Wardlow has made the save, and Wardlow's being the good guy baby face and coming to save the day. So what did you think of this match?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I thought Jay Lethal actually did a solid job on that, and I like watching him wrestle. I think he is a useful piece for their, the things that he does a pretty solid, like, tope suicida without like killing anybody. Like, it's actually a pretty like, it's not, and I mean, believe me, I love the exciting version too, but it's very like, I'm gonna like hit you and then land on my feet kind of deal, and that's interesting to me. So but I think Wardlow needs to start racking up some wins, and I mean, and a turnbuckle of the face is like, pretty solid, statement that you're not messing around and that you're going to defend the belt. And I just overall thought it was a pretty good, good first defense.
I thought it was. I thought it was a pretty solid match. I was like, when he went for Satnam though, like he was gonna powerbomb him. I was like, oh, this is.
Oh no, that's gonna be way more fun.
I was like, it's not only the size. I was like, Satnam's legs are so long. Like you have to. And Wardlow can only do so much. I was like, there's a lot that's happening there, and and it will probably happen at some point. But I was just like, oh, so it was a nice little tease. And just Wardlow doesn't care. He had also just kind of got pushed to the point where these dudes keep they keep interfering, and I'm just not gonna deal with it. And of course they beat him up some afterwards, and that's what I made the point that, because it was somebody with daily DDT, they always joke about how especially it's a WWE trope, but where the dumb baby face has no friends. We joke about that a lot. And so last night I was like, Wardlow doesn't have any friends. And I even said to Nikki, I was like, Wardlow's only friend was like MJF and the Pinnacle, basically. And I was like, and now they're gone. And I was like, but you would think that people would want to be friends with him now that MJF is gone. He got rid of MJF, and now there's you would think that somebody, I was like, nobody. And I was like, not even best friends who he came to help the other day when they were beating him down. Like nobody came to help Wardlow. And I was like, why are y'all making him the dumb baby face with no friends? So, I guess because he's a monster and he's a lone wolf and he doesn't need friends. Like this microphone doesn't need friends.
I'm a lone wolf. I don't need help.
This microphone.
I'm going to ask you the question that I was asked while we were watching that match is in terms of not Sanjay Dutt, but Satnam. Thank you. Of course you would run away from me at that moment.
Oh yeah.
What is he's giant. But what is he gonna do? What is his?
They are protecting him. He's like Jade. Or like Jade was when they first signed her. He's very green. He's a former NBA basketball player.
Okay.
So he is he's training. So they want him there, obviously, to show that he's there, that he's this imposing figure. They let him do a little bit of stuff. But not too much because he's still learning and he's still, I don't know. I haven't heard where he is as far as his training goes, how he's excelling or anything like that. And so I think that's part of the reason they paired him. I think pairing him with Sanjay is really smart because Sanjay is he's very good on the mic. I don't know what Satnam can do on the mic. I'm not familiar with how, because he's not, because I was like that. The one thing with Jade was, even though in the ring, she was still pretty green. She's incredible on the microphone.
She can talk.
She can talk, and she's very good at it. So I don't know that Satnam is at a point where he can do any of that yet. And I think he's still learning. And so I think it was kind of the smart thing to do to put him, especially because they turned Jay Lethal heel, which was a big deal because Jay Lethal's always been a baby face. For the most part has been a baby face. And so I think turning him heel, and then they needed some more. And so he's kind of he's almost like the bodyguard for him, almost he's I think he's kind of like the muscle. Jay still gets in there and wrestles and things like that, and then Sanjay's obviously the mouthpiece because
he's part of his crew.
And because Sanjay's retired from the ring, and so that's why I was a little surprised that he got physical on Rampage, because he had retired from wrestling, or at least in ring competition rather. And so I think the pairings make sense, but so I don't know where Satnam is as far as his training goes or how close he is to being ready. So I think they're just being really careful with him and not trying to expose him too much until he's a little bit further along. Ready. Yeah. But I do kind of hope now that this is done. I mean, they did all the attacking stuff afterwards, so I don't know if there's going to be retaliation, but I'm ready for Wardlow to move on to the next thing. I think he needs a real. Yeah. And I get they want to keep some of the art because there is no ROH TV deal yet. I think they're trying to keep
in the consciousness.
Yeah. Not just because obviously Claudio has the title. Samoa Joe, I don't know why he's not been active, because I mean, obviously he was injured before, but we haven't seen him since he won on Death Before Dishonor. Like,
Yeah,
he's
you're
not
right.
been there. So I don't know if it's because he's not 100% or if they just haven't figured out where to put him yet. So then Jay Lethal has kind of been that face of ROH lately. So I'm hoping they're going to mix it up and kind of put in, because like now we have like Dalton Castle and I was gonna say the boys, but they are now the Tate twins. They're finally using their names. So they just won the 6-man titles, but then we have the trios titles coming. So I don't know if they think that might confuse people. And it made me laugh because when they announced the trios, Dalton said, "But it doesn't tell you how many people are supposed to be there because it's not the 6-man." So, but I did see yesterday, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Brent said he and Brandon, they are the Tate twins, they have officially signed with ROH, which means Dalton should have, I don't know like what his contract status is, but so it sounds like they're starting to flesh out the roster some. So hopefully that means TV is coming. But so if they're going to do that, I would like them to use some other ROH people instead of it just being Jay Lethal all the time. Like,
I wonder if Tony could leverage a lot of what I mean, you can say that week over week, this is different from last year, although this has been just a shitty summer for TV in general. And I think it's because people are finally starting to actually reorient into normal, as it were. But I wonder how much like he could leverage potentially getting some time on one of the TBS or TNT for ROH.
Yeah, and there's even been talk
having
about
some availability because they just did that big smash where they like merged Warner Brothers and Discovery. Like,
see, and that's
God knows like
that's
how many properties are sitting in that. Like, because that's got to be a lot of.
They're talking about moving away from like scripted stuff and like certain things like that. So I don't know how that's going to affect ROH. Like,
yeah,
and so then some people have made the point of putting them. I believe it's Discovery. There's another. No, it's a third True TV. That's the third. And so people have wondered, like, maybe they'll put them on True TV, like, because there's no wrestling there. It's mostly just a bunch of reruns of stuff over there. Like, so maybe it goes there. I get the feeling that Tony probably wants them on a TBS or in TNT so that people can find them. So I really have no idea. And now I don't know how people, there was the rumors that they were going to go to HBO Max, but now HBO Max is going to fold into Discovery as of next year. And apparently from what people say, the people in charge over there with this whole thing, like I don't know. It seems like they're changing a lot of things and it's kind of and so it sounds probably not very good for ROH. So I don't know what they're doing, but so I get
only we knew an ROH historian. Oh wait, we do.
Where can we find one? But yeah, that's great. I love that he's leaning into that. It's fantastic.
He should be. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you need to know who we're speaking of, folks, that's Paul Fontaine, ROH historian. So,
it's also ROH
historian. If you need someone for this, the professor, that's your guy.
Definitely. But yeah, so I get like keeping some of the ROH people on TV, and even if they have Wardlow feud with more ROH people, but I would like to see more ROH people, and I'd like to see Wardlow move on to someone else. And then we talked about it the other day, like, because my sister was like, well, where is Scorpio Sky? Like, why haven't we seen him? But I think that injury must have been worse than they thought, and he was able to pull it together enough to have the match to drop the title, and then I think he's just like rehabbing, and now we have like Ethan Page going on TV saying he hates it here, so maybe Wardlow can get that, but then you almost can't have Ethan Page lose because of that, because of what he's doing. So I don't know. I just hope they move Wardlow along to someone else and maybe just have him go through it. I mean, I get like on the one hand, you don't want to have him being the monster where he just crushes everyone, even though that's kind of what got him here. And you also want to get him to the point where he can have long matches like he did last night So they've just got to find a good partner for him, I think, and somebody who can afford to lose to Wardlow. I think would be maybe that's what they're having an issue.
Yeah, with. I'm like thinking now. I'm like trying to run through the roster.
Which I think so maybe you can have. I mean, you don't want to make ROH wrestlers look weak by any means, but it's a set of people that can afford, because there is no TV right now, they can afford to lose a little bit more than an Ethan Page or something like that. So maybe he faces some more people from over there. And then, so the second match was the lone women's match on the card. We finally got Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter, who of course Thunder Rosa did have Toni Storm on her side because she knew that Britt Baker and Rebel were going to be with Jamie and they were going to be doing what they do, which is causing havoc. So what did you think about this one?
I mean, it was pretty standard stuff. Jamie Hayter seems great. She seems like she could actually, get somewhere with some of what's going on. I don't know if keeping her with the group she's with is the right thing or not, but maybe because she
seemed like the split was going to come like a few weeks ago, and then they've kind of drug it out a little bit, which is sometimes they have an issue. Like I get long-term storytelling, but then sometimes things like the Julia Hart thing took forever for that turn.
Yeah, that finally happened. So long. I'm hoping they basically missed their window.
And so I'm hoping maybe last night, because of the things that were happening, like Britt kept grabbing the title and carrying it around. Maybe that's going to be a little thing where Jamie's just going to have enough to be like, you are distracting me from what I want. Like, I want that title. Like, so maybe they're kind of reintroducing that because it had kind of fizzled out a little bit.
Maybe she could tag with like Chris Statlander or something.
Chris Statlander. Well, Jamie Hayter's nose got broke during the match last night.
Oh, well, I guess she can't do much of anything.
And then there was the room. They said they don't. They said not to read. They didn't want to read too much into it, but somebody from Body Slam was at the show last night, and they said it appeared that Chris Statlander might have gotten hurt during the dark tapings because she landed hard. She went for a big boot, and then she landed hard, and they ended the match quickly, and she was met by medical staff, but he was like, don't read too much into it. I don't know. He was like, she could have just landed wrong, and it could have, they ended it to get her looked at quickly, and maybe it's nothing serious. He was like, that's just what it appeared from what I saw. So it sounds like, so I don't know how long Jamie's going to be out of action. And then now I don't know what's going on with Chris Statlander, if it's anything serious or if it just was a wrong landing and maybe she needs like a few days of rest or anything like that. So. And then, and then like, well, we've talked about it. I don't know where Red Velvet is. Like, I don't know if because originally I was like, oh, well, maybe she took time off because she was getting married. So maybe, but then I was like, but it's been several weeks. So I was like, well, maybe there's something else going on, or maybe they're just giving her some time to, because she got married, maybe she went on a honeymoon and maybe they're just giving her some time away. But obviously with the way the baddies were going, they've been doing a lot, but then they've got Layla Gray, who's kind of, she's trying to get in with them. So it's like, they kind of have that to distract from Red Velvet not being there. But then like, Penelope Ford's not being used, and I'm almost positive that she's been cleared because I've seen her booked for indie stuff. So I think she's cleared. I don't know why they're not using her. So it's just, so there are some interesting things there. So I think I thought I would agree. I thought it was a pretty solid match. I know there's been a lot of discourse around Thunder Rosa lately. I don't know if you've seen any of it.
I've seen it all.
About this, there's the whole sandbagging thing, and then there's the Emi Sakura comment
and her inability to take criticism well,
right, and then there was the comments from Emi Sakura, which were not wrong necessarily. And Emi is, considering who Emi is, and she's trained so many people, like she's somebody who you might want to listen to. But then I was like, I don't know that was the best way to go about it. But on the other hand, I was like, maybe she feels like there's a language barrier there, or maybe she feels like she doesn't have that, even though she has that standing, obviously in the Japanese wrestling community, maybe she doesn't feel like she has that standing here. And maybe she felt like she couldn't approach Thunder Rosa, or maybe she's tried to approach Thunder Rosa about it, and Thunder Rosa didn't want to listen. I just was a little concerned about the way that came off. And like I said, not that Emi was wrong at all. I just don't know how that. So it just seems like there's a lot against Thunder Rosa in the locker room, which is concerning.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I saw people last night, like they were talking about how Jamie should have won. And I was like, again, I don't think
that's true.
No, and I don't think Thunder Rosa is probably not going to lose before she wrestles Taya. Again, it's not for the AEW women's title, but you want to send her into Mexico representing your company as the champion. So I don't see her losing the title anytime soon. If she were to drop it, sure, I get the excitement of doing it at Battle of the Belts, but All Out is three. And then, or if it's not going to be All Out, then Full Gear is, just a few months away. Like
I think if you're going to take it away, you're keeping that for All Out, or
right.
I mean,
exactly.
That's an All Out level deal.
Exactly. That really
has
huge
to
match.
happen in front of that number of people.
Yeah, and somebody made a really good point that I agree with, was that they are tired of Thunder Rosa just barely winning the title. Like, she needs to have some dominant wins. She needs to have some more convincing wins. And I know last night part of it was because there's the shenanigans of Britt and Rebel, and they have got to get Britt Baker away from that damn title. I was like, and I've talked to people about it. They're like, there's Britt Baker fatigue. And I was like, I get it. She's fantastic on the microphone. Like, I get her character, but you don't see Nyla Rose doesn't do that. You don't see Sheeta, or when Riho was there, like, you don't see them doing things like that. And you don't see that. And I know it's because I get it. She's a heel and all of that stuff. But like, even if you look at the titles from not just the women's title, like, you don't see any of that happening with the men's title. So like, I really wish they would keep Britt away from the title picture and keep her away from the title. And I know that, and maybe it is part because they are going to have Jamie finally turn on her because she keeps costing her and she keeps getting in her way, basically. But I don't think that Jamie it seems like the reason they've kind of put Thunderstorm together is, like Britt said, was because Tony is a threat. And so if she keeps Tony with her, Tony can't challenge her for the title. And it does seem like Tony is probably she probably has a really high chance of being the one to drop to take the title from Thunder Rosa. And I would be fine with that when the time comes, but I just really wish they would get Britt Baker out of that picture and let that be Thunder Rosa's title and let her be a dominant champion, and let her, especially because the whole sandbagging thing, like, Britt Baker apparently was liking tweets about it, which could be a heel character thing, or maybe they really just don't like each other. I don't know, but I feel like it undermines what Thunder Rosa is doing, and I kind of wish they would back off from that.
I don't, without having like a clear understanding of how everyone feels and how much truth there is to things, but I mean, knowing that, that she does have difficulty with criticism, again, with right now, regardless of all of these sort of like inner political things that are going, whether it's in the locker room or everything else, is like, that's your champion right now, and you have to make sure that you're elevating your champion so that you're not making the belt look shitty for future, for her and for future people that you might want to do that for.
Right. Especially when you have her go to Japan and she wrestles Miyu, and then you have her come back, and then you've got like this other, like, you want to build, so her going to, like we've talked about it, her going to defend her title, or at least, go into other promotions as champion. Like, you can't, you're undoing all of that if you're doing things like this.
Well, and I guess my question would be, is that what you're going to do? Are you going to put the belt back on Britt Baker, or is there going to be somebody else at All Out that she's, because you better get going, building a like viable, like clear, is it Jamie Hayter? Is it whoever it is, you better get going, building me a clear line to who she is going to, if she's potentially going to drop it, that who she's going to be fighting for that, because right now it's like, otherwise you're just telling me that you're giving it back to Britt, and if you like that, great, and a lot of people do, but if you don't like that, then that's going to create issues too. And I just don't,
they've never had a clear, it seems almost like they've never had a clear story for what they are trying to do with Thunder Rosa. Like, cause they had, like, cause we've talked about, like, they had the awful thing the week after she won, she was attacked and like they didn't let her talk. And then she wrestled Nyla, which I get Nyla, she's a former champion and she's basically like, prove yourself to me. Sure, that's fine. I get it. But then it just seems like they've never had a clear, and then Britt is constantly in the background. And I don't think that's where they're going with Britt. And if they do with Britt, they have got to understand that there is Britt Baker fatigue. People are concerned that she's going to be like Charlotte Flair, where she's winning the title and she's given all these, she's constantly in the title picture when she doesn't necessarily need to be. And you're taking that opportunity. And so I've heard a lot of people who, when she still had the title, they were concerned that it was going to turn into a Charlotte Flair situation where fans were going to start turning on her because they were going to be sick of her. And then they're kind of still putting her in that picture. And like I said, I get it. I understand Britt's very good on the microphone. She's improved a lot in the ring. I don't think she's the best wrestler in the women's division. I think there are women who are stronger than her. But I also understand that she's extremely marketable too. And I don't hate, and I do like Britt Baker. I just don't like the idea of her constantly being just kind of in the picture. Like you said, if they don't have a clear path for her, then, or if it is going to be Britt, then make it, I guess.
Well, you just let me know. Otherwise, you kind of have to move her out of the way, because the reality is, I mean, like it or not, she kind of is she is the women's division. Like she is the face of the women's division, whether you like it or not, because I think when most common like casual AEW people who are going to tune in, that's what they think of. And
right.
However,
well, then you've got to build other women, but then you have to build other women up. And it's the same issue with WWE. Like, then you have to build, if you can't.
We've been making that argument we've been having that very discussion for almost the entire time we've been doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, now if I'm going to get a belt, and if I'm, wrestling at a level that you think that I need Kenny Omega storylines. I need Jon Moxley storylines. I need, if you're going to make it real,
right,
you can't just kind of have shenanigans and schmozzes and all this crazy crap. You need to actually give us real storylines for the ladies too. Give me
which has been, and of course that's a criticism we've had for a while. And, and even if, so maybe they do give Jamie another shot and they just ban everybody from ringside, and it's just Jamie and Thunder Rosa at All Out. Like, I would not, even if I don't expect Jamie here to win at All Out, I'd just give her a fair shot where she, she's earned it.
Jamie's a real match.
Yeah, Jamie's a very good wrestler. Then ban Toni Storm too. Ban them all from ringside and let them have a clean match. Let Thunder Rosa win cleanly. If Thunder Rosa is going to be the one to win, let her win in a dominant fashion. Not the saying that Jamie can't put up a good fight, but let her, don't let her win it again by the skin of her teeth. Like, if you're going to, position them both to look good, or no matter who Thunder Rosa wrestles, make your champion look strong, but make it, you can have her have competitors who, are good, and maybe they are good enough to beat her, like a Toni Storm is. But then you have to book them both that way. But you have to you don't make Thunder Rosa look like she can drop the title at any minute because she's not because you don't think that with Jon Moxley. No matter who they put Jon Moxley against, you pretty, like you said, the men are just booked more strongly when it comes to, other than Jade, because obviously Jade's on doing her undefeated streak, which I think is great. So I get that, but that's a really
line, so they know how to do it.
It's what I was just about to say. They can do, and it's all, and that's kind of been their issue. They focus on the men's storyline. They can have multiple things going on, but with the women, it's either or. Jade can do this, or Thunder Rosa can do that. Jade has the baddies in Stokely. Thunder Rosa has, it's just one or the, it's like they can't fully give time. They need, that's why I keep saying they need to hire Maria Kanellis Bennett, because she has the creative background, and now they would be smart to do it, because she has said on Twitter that she has a good relationship with Triple H. And if Triple H is doing the things that he needs to do to get this women's division in a better spot, then hiring Maria makes sense. And AEW doesn't want to be in a position, I think, where Triple H has Maria and creative. I think that's going to be a mistake for AEW. I do think like bringing in Matt, and we'll, again, we keep touching on this. Like, and I think bringing in Madison Rayne was really smart, but that's the coaching side of it. They need somebody in the creative side who can help them tell stories and to give them full, well-rounded stories that they give to the men. And I think Maria is somebody that can do that. And as soon as he bought ROH, I was like, why have you not hired Maria yet? It's like, hire her. So hopefully they do, because otherwise I think the women, it seems like it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back with a women's division in AEW.
It just seems like when they've run out of like, well, we don't know how to build a storyline here, so throw Britt Baker at it.
Yeah. And you can't, that's not fair to Britt either, to be this person that kind of has to carry, because we don't know what we're going to do next. And so can you come step up and do this?
Well, and at one point, is there someone that there's got to be other people that, not just from the perspective of like putting that much pressure on her, but she's not going to live forever, and she's not going to.
Right. Well, and then you've got Ruby Soho.
You've got a lot. I mean, there's a lot of women in there that
I think they're saving Athena for Jade, and I think Athena will probably be the one to dethrone Jade. So I kind of have Athena like in that picture, but they're not really doing anything with Ruby. I mean, they've got her in the Eddie. She's like a key centerpiece for Eddie. But Ruby's got to have some payoff for that too. And obviously they'll probably do something with Ruby and Ty, and now they have Anna JAS and doing that whole thing. But I mean, Ruby is somebody who should be in the title picture. She's probably somebody who should have the title, even if she's not so maybe she's not the one who takes it off of Thunder Rosa, but maybe she's the person who takes it off of Thunder Rosa. But they've got to fix their women's division. What it comes
all right. So, and we got off on a tangent on that because of that women's belt match there.
Yes, I wasn't planning to go that far, but
that's okay. We got through some of the stuff we'll be talking about pretty soon, so whatever.
But so we did have a really, really good main event, which was Claudio GD Castagnoli versus Konosuke Takeshita, and
God.
That was
is. I mean, and I know that he wasn't going to win this one, obviously, because of all of these things. And it's like, but I'm starting to fall into the same category as everyone else. It's like, I know that everyone's putting him over like crazy when he's in the match.
Well, he deserves it.
Can somebody give this kid a win though?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I keep forgetting he's not getting wins on TV, but he's gotten them on Dark and Dynamite. And so I'm like, or a Dark and Elevation. So I forget, and I'm like, why? I'm like, no, he just beat James Drake. Like him and James Drake or JD Drake had a banger of a match on.
Yeah, that was a good match. I actually checked that match out.
Or on Dark rather. And wait, was it Dark? No, it was Elevation. It was the main. Yeah, it was the main event of Elevation last week.
Whichever one it was, I caught it because
it was phenomenal, and he got the win there. And the week before, he wrestled Anthony Henry, and and they had a phenomenal match, and he got the win. So I wasn't thinking about. I forgot it on TV
too because they had the thingies at the end of them.
Yeah, and I was just and people were like, he's not got a win, and I was like, yes he does, and I was like, oh, that's because you people don't care about Dark and Elevation and think that nothing happens over there when really they do. And yes, they should give him wins on TV,
but they should give him a TV win.
He did on Rampage. He beat Ryan Nemeth, so
but come on.
That could have been. That is a match.
That could have been a
dark match. They could have saved. They should have put JD Drake versus versus Takeshita. That should have been on TV.
Yeah, you could have switched those two things out pretty easily.
Yeah, and James could have. JD Drake could have handled the loss, and it gets him in front. Because I have I don't know. I'm wondering if they're putting Workhorsemen together and putting them in ROH. I don't know for sure. it would make sense to me. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's because it makes sense to me. But I think you can have, and they were doing some stuff where they were having JD do solo stuff. Like he was Keith Lee's first match in AEW on TV. And so they clearly, JD Drake has wrestled in some other pretty solid matches on TV. So I think JD is somebody that he can afford to lose right now just because of the way they're booking him. But he can also, because he's wrestled for so long and he's so good at what he does, that he can be like, they can put him on TV. And people like, I see people like, I saw the other day he and Anthony were, I think they're wrestling in Prestige Wrestling. They're making their debut. And people were like, oh my God, JD Drake. So people like, they know him and they like him. And I know sometimes it kind of hurt. Like, I love the Wingmen. I think they're fun. But I get, like, on the other hand, it kind of hurts him a little bit because of what it is that he does. And because they keep him on YouTube. And every once in a while, and then when they put him on TV, the people are like, oh yeah, JD Drake. And so I think, like you said, they could have easily have swapped that out, and JD Drake could have looked really good against Takeshita because he looked phenomenal in that match, but he can afford the loss, and it's a little bit more of a, and I don't want to take anything from Ryan Nemeth, but it's a more of a, when you see that match, is obviously
you're not taking anything away from Ryan Nemeth by saying that it's a bigger win.
Right, I know, but I don't want to sound like I'm burying Ryan Nemeth or anything, because Ryan Nemeth he's a solid wrestler, and if you don't,
like, he cares, he's a hunk. He doesn't care.
He is a hunk, and he, even though he tried to say
he is a way, but you don't know.
Even though he tried to say that Takeshita is not as much of a hunk as he is, which is a damn lie. He knows that.
Listen. You don't know how hard he works, and he's got a whole trailer of stuff waiting for him after that. Okay, so he's fine.
That is true. But yeah, so
he's a real star. Okay,
he is a real star.
He doesn't care
not just his brother.
Say about him.
But yeah, so I heard, I saw something last night, a screenshot of a tweet that from somebody else I followed, and I guess they were mad that there wasn't really any build-up for Claudio versus Takeshita, but I was like, the build-up is that it's going to be a freaking amazing match. Like, it doesn't.
All I heard was Claudio versus Takeshita, and I went,
match of the night.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Potential match of the year candidate. That's what
I was sitting there, and I actually, this is one of the few times, because I don't always necessarily get through it, but I stayed awake because I knew that was coming. And when it was over, I was like, oh, that's it?
Yeah.
And I haven't done that with Rampage in a while.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they kind of knew it. Yeah, well, those live Rampages are like another level. Like, they just, they can go a little crazy. So that was, but so I thought the match was fantastic. And I knew, like you said, like, I knew Claudio was not dropping the title that soon. And I knew he wasn't dropping it to Takeshita. I know Takesha's going back to Japan. He has a match next Saturday in Japan. Like, I know, he's if he hasn't left already, he's getting ready to leave. So clearly he wasn't, but there were a few times in that match that I suspended my disbelief, and they gave him like 3 or 4, like 2 9/10. Like, there were a couple times, like, they made it look like he was gonna get Claudio, and I was like, and even that's what they said on commentary. They're like, all it takes is 3 seconds, and anything can happen on any given night. And they made Takeshita look really good, and Claudio looked really good. And there was somebody retweeted the AEW Japan thing, and Claudio was talking about how Takeshita was really good, but he wasn't on his level yet. And I was like, he might be on your level a little bit. I was like, I know that you're Claudio GD Castagnoli, and you gotta say that nobody's better than you. I get it. And you're the one with the title and not him. But he did say that how great he was. And he's like, he's going to Japan and is going to be wrestling over there. And he's like, he can come back and wrestle me for this title anytime he wants. Nice. Which is a lot of responses that Takeshita gets. Like, Adam Page was like, he's like, I knew it was going to be good, but it was better than I thought. I knew he was really good. He hit me way harder than I've ever been hit. Like, so I think it seems like a lot of people are just like lining up basically to wrestle Takeshita.
It seems like a great match, and it's like everybody gets, the crowd loves him. He's a huge star. He's like, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, honestly. And but I just love watching him so much. I'm
Me
just
too.
like, it doesn't matter. I see his name on the thing and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. And what I like too is they did some like strong style, a little bit of catch, like they mixed a little bit of stuff in there. There was a couple of spots where like when he flipped him over and kind of, you know, landed him on his, it was like, oh my gosh, they are like, they're bringing the heat tonight.
Did.
They
and it was crazy because like
when Taz and Regal started to like kind of break stuff down a little bit on the commentary.
Oh man, commentary
I thought that was
great last night with that. Yeah, because especially because William Regal is clearly extremely impressed by Takeshita, and he doesn't hide it, which I really like. Like
he's so happy to be back in wrestling.
Yeah, and he was talking about who Takeshita trained who trained Takeshita, and he was like, I wish I had been able to. That was one guy, that I wish I had been able to wrestle him, and like he was. Yeah, and he was like, I would, and he flat out said, I would like to have him in Blackpool Combat Club. There was a video last night that a fan took after the match. Regal called him over, like he was, Takeshita was off the side of the stage, and William walked to the end of the stage and waved him over and said something to him. Nice. And so I was like, well, we've talked about it before. That's clearly like the ultimate sign of respect from William Regal to go out of his way to come talk to you. Because, you know, we've seen it with Wheeler Yuta, and he's obviously has such a great eye for talent.
Well, and he can't keep kayfabe when he sees something. He has, and I don't think at this point he does not give up.
No, he doesn't
about it, which is fine by me because
me too, because I love it. Yeah,
amazing.
I think it's great.
But he can't when he sees somebody younger, or he's like, I mean, and he's not younger. Like he was making the point, you know, this kid started when he was this age, and he's 26 now, and so he's, you know, he's on his way to being.
He's a 10-year veteran at 27 years old.
Yeah,
which is insane. But it's
he's on his way to being.
Almost like Pete Dunne.
It's a main event.
Yeah.
I mean, even in a smaller show, but for him to like, he can't hide it because he gets so excited that he can't.
And you can tell how much he still loves wrestling. Like it isn't just a job for him. Like he loves what he's doing. And I think being in this position with Blackpool Combat Club, because he's got Mox and he's got Danielson, who he respects and he's friends with and he loves them. But then he's got Yuta that he sees this potential in, and he was like, I can mold him and I can shape him. He's got Danielson, he's got Mox with him. Now he has Claudio with him. Like Wheeler Yuta is he's in such an incredible position right now. Which
huge.
Yeah, like
he's getting trained by one of the best, and I think the reason that Regal and Triple H did have, like, they were on the same page about the one thing was bringing these wrestlers in from all over the world that were younger and awesome and doing all this amazing work, and like they were on the same page about that. That's a reality. That's truth.
He even said when he was in WWE that he was looking at Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, and I think it was Lee Moriarty, maybe. He was looking at all three of them to bring them in. And then and I take that back to the JD Drake thing, where JD Drake and Anthony Henry got to face Blackpool Combat Club when they were one of their first matches because of the Evolve stuff. William Regal was so heavy into that. He was going to Bola and, you know, finding talent and signing them. And so I think that, you know, that he's familiar with both Drake and Henry because he saw them in Evolve and he saw what they were doing. They were tag team champions. Their very first match together as a tag team in Evolve, they won the tag team titles. Like that's huge. And I think William Regal was like, okay, I know these guys, they're here. I know that they can go against Danielson and Mox, and if they were given a proper, like, I know obviously the whole point was to put over Mox and Danielson. We all get it. But if they were given like a proper match, like where it was where it wasn't just not necessarily a squash match, but like if it was a proper match, like I think Workhorsemen could go toe to toe with them. Would they win? Maybe not. but still, I think Regal sees, and so, Regal he sees that talent. And like you said, he was on the same page with Triple H on a lot of things. And he's still very much, his mind is, I think he still views wrestling that way now. He just, as such an, almost like an analyst, like, and he's like, okay, I see this and I can help them bring this out. So even though he is with Blackpool Combat Club, he clearly sees what the rest of the roster is. And he's like, I'm sure if talent wanted to go to him and talk to him about stuff, he would gladly, give them guidance and advice and things like that, I can't even imagine being a wrestler and having Regal right there.
No, at your disposal. And he gives every indication in both of those pieces of audio with Chris Jericho. There's every indication in the world that that's exactly right. He is not gatekeeping. He wants wrestling to go on forever. He loves it.
And he wants the solid, like,
what
he wants
it's
the
done
foundation.
For him. He wants it to go on and on. He's like planting as many trees as he can because he wants.
Oh yeah, that's a great analogy. And definitely,
like yes, more. And I mean, I think that when we do see wrestling in the future and we are like getting the book about this guy or that guy, is like his name is going to pop up a lot in a lot of people's careers. And thank Okada. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. And I want to say real quick, so with Takeshita, while that match was, because clearly they filmed it on Friday and it aired last night, he was in DPW last night in Raleigh, and he faced Andrew Everett. And from the tweets that I have seen, people were calling it a match of the year. And people were just talking about how special, not even just how special Takeshita is, but how special Andrew Everett is. And he was like, Andrew Everett gets overlooked a lot just because there's so much talent out there. But I heard quite a few people saying it was the best match and somebody said it was the best match they had ever seen in their life. I was like,
wow.
Yeah. And that was coming from our wrestler who said that.
Wow.
So again, way behind on DPW. I don't know when that will air because they filmed it as a pay-per-view last night. And I think they do stuff on their Patreon like 2 weeks after. So I don't know when that match will air. I will put it out when it does. And I was like, that's what I told Nikki last night. I was like, once we're done with G1, I was like, we have got to go back and get caught up on DPW because we keep saying we're going to do it. And I was like, and DPW is going to be here in November. So I was like,
well, now you have to.
I was like, we got to get caught up. I'm hoping that Takeshita will be back from Japan in November. I'm like, please come back. Please let me see you. I want to see this. But so I'm really looking for it. And just, I've seen Takeshita wrestle, like his match with Lee Moriarty at I think it was Freelance. That was a free show on which it's on IWTV. That was incredible. And it's on my matches. I have a list of match of the year candidates, and it easily made that. And I need to go back. He wrestled, why do I always forget who it was? Speedball Mike Bailey.
Oh,
I've heard that was incredible. It's on YouTube and it's free. Actually, I want to say that the match with Lee Moriarty is now on YouTube as well.
Sweet.
So I would highly recommend going out of your way to watch it. So Takeshita has been great in AEW, but he's just had this incredible run while he's been here, and just they've put him with so many phenomenal people that he's just had these really incredible matches.
Some serious that's some endurance. Going from show to show like that.
Exactly. I can only imagine, like, he went Friday night from that match with Claudio and then turned around and apparently had a match of the year contender last night in Raleigh and at an indie. So Takeshita is very, and then I haven't seen it yet, but I heard Takeshita versus Nick Wayne was very good. They wrestled last weekend.
Oh, nice.
And Takeshita said, a lot of people call me the future, but you are the future. So he basically bestowed the nickname the future onto Nick Wayne last weekend. And Nick was like, I saw him tweeting about it, and he was extremely appreciative. And he was like, I can't believe that, basically he was like, this is my life. I get to be in the room with all these people. Cause he was at the Ric Flair last match event. And he had a match with, I haven't seen the show yet, but I had a friend who has it, and he was saying it was really good. It was Nick Wayne versus Alan Angels. versus two other people who I want to say Speedball, but I don't know if that is correct. I cannot remember who it was. But
remember hearing this card.
Yeah, and I remember seeing it, and I was like, "Oh, that match is going to be great." And then I forgot. And then I've heard they opened with Motor City versus the Wolves, and I heard that was a phenomenal match, which I'm not surprised at all by that, because I think Motor City is doing some of their best work right now, and I always love the Wolves, even though in Impact Davey Richards is an MLW, but they brought him in and they were on opposite sides. So in Impact world, they are not a team and not friends, but on the indie scene they're still doing stuff together, and the Wolves and so they're always good. But so Takeshita's just had an amazing run, and now he's going back to Japan and probably gonna kill it some more. But he has said that America is his second home, and it sounds like he wants to come back. And I was talking to somebody, it sounds like he may already have some stuff in place, like maybe he's going to Japan to kind of do some of the things he was already contracted to do, but then we'll be back. Hopefully, I'm hoping and fingers crossed that will be November so I can see him at DPW. So. I'm crossing my fingers for that. But all right, let's see here. So we finally got through all of that stuff with Battle of the Belts when we got sidetracked by some other things.
That's all right.
But so you've been reading a really cool book, it sounds like.
Yes.
So do you want to? I'll let you talk about that.
After listening to Dave and Garrett interview Brian Solomon about his book, I picked it up, and this is Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real-life story of wrestling's original Sheik. And to be honest, the reason I picked it up is because the Sheik is from this area. He's from Lansing, and his family is from there. So I was like, ooh, a book about Detroit wrestling. Right. He owned Big Time Wrestling for a period of time, and that was what this is a huge Dick the Bruiser, Bobo Brazil, like all kinds of people. And so I was like, ooh, and I listened to the interview, and I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great, because I think I could really enjoy. I like wrestling history books.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time, that it reflects real life. So it's fun to actually, this is from, it starts around it's post World War II, because the Sheik was actually a World War II veteran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So very young when he came back, and very young when he left. There was faking of a birth certificate, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So really cool stuff. And then also to sort of like get the perspective of a city that I'm familiar with, places that I've been before, places that I haven't. So it's been a lot of fun to do that.
That's cool.
I also got to a point where, and I kind of wanted to bring this up just because it's relevant to what's going on here, but he spent a lot of time doing the Northeast Territory to build up what would give him the ability and the leverage to be the owner of the Detroit territories, and Capital Wrestling, which was, Vince McMahon, Vincent J. McMahon. And, but they were making the point in there that, and his dad before him, and that was in they made the reference to, VKM at 1958, and it's and they made mention of his father having been in the business prior to that, and so there's been a McMahon in American pro wrestling since the 1920s. So over 100 years.
Yeah,
that's McMahon.
That they're there, but I didn't realize.
It made me stop. It really, I was listening to this thing, and it's I'm really enjoying this whole thing. And then I'm like, hold on, because it really gave me pause about, and I did get a chance to read. I didn't realize that it had been
over 100 years. That's insane.
It's this family has been in this business. They've helped, in many ways helped define it. The NWA acting like a bunch of ridiculous people kind of opened the door for the, you know, the Vince we all know and are watching.
Right.
I mean, but the idea of like, oh my gosh, like the Vince screwed Vince line that has been rolling around here. It's not just like simply, and I know a lot of people, he, you know, made a lot of people famous and and there were questions as to whether people should have, you know, we'll miss you versus not and whatever all else.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was like the historical significance of what is going on right now.
Yeah.
Hit me really, really hard when I was like, holy cow.
It's a very sobering fact to realize that a McMahon has been in, because I think a lot of people do know that, you know, that Vincent J. McMahon was first, but they don't realize like how far back. And then you also now bring it forward with Stephanie. She's the first woman 100 years later. She's the first woman to take on that CEO role. And obviously it came under some not great circumstances and things like that. And who knows how long it will last. And, you know, because of the way the industry is today. But so she's taking it into another, you know, a new place just as a woman. And so so even without there being Vince McMahon, there is still Stephanie McMahon, and she's continuing on to that legacy, which is not just like her her father and her grandfather's legacy, but it's generations before, which is mind blowing to think about.
Yeah. Yep.
And I had no idea.
It really kind of like, I was like, wait, since the 20s.
Yeah, when you said the 20s, I was like doing math. I was like, that was like 100 years ago.
Wait, we're in the 20s.
Yeah, that's exactly
that was like how my mind.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, wait, math is not my thing. However,
wait a minute,
quick math on that, and
the the influence and the like. You know, it was incredible. So it makes it that much more historically significant in terms of like what is happening right now. Mm-hmm. And then also just in general, I wanted to give the book a shout out. I'm about halfway through it. I don't have that much more. I audible everything because it's easier for me.
Sure.
But you know, the interview sold it, and the book itself is fantastic, and not just like those little minor things that like get out of it, but for me, it's really, really interesting to listen to, and I think that even like someone you know not from Detroit, but someone like who has a territory history, where you would go, oh, those guys. You know, because like the names pop in and you're like, oh, of course we know his name or this guy's name or whatever all else. But, you know, it's a really interesting story about this person who was the original guy doing these things. And he's bringing gimmicks and ladies to the ring in that way that we kind of are familiar with. Is something that actually he was helping to found. Because before that, it wasn't so gimmicky because they wanted to be serious sport. So they were trying to sell it as a serious sport.
Right.
For a long time, people that did gimmicky stuff, like at some point, you know, the Sheik became you do this parlor trick that's flash paper and a fireball. And but people still look down on guys like that at that point in wrestling because they were like, hey, this is serious. This is a serious fake sport. Don't, you know, kayfabe. Like that was like, I mean, they lived that life and they felt like, you know, so there was the idea of coming to the ring with his princess, you know, that he was whatever. And when he went to his kefir finally and did that sort of thing, it was still something that was a big transition in wrestling. And he was one of the people that I think helped bring it there. But also just for me, I've been totally nerding out on the amount of like Detroit and local history.
Well, it makes it more real.
That place is still there.
Yeah, it's
I've been to that place, and that parking garage on the ceiling is still there, and they've upgraded it since then. And hearing about it's, I like that stuff. It was like when I talked to you about the wrestling, and it was like if you wanted to get kind of a little taste of British culture, but through the eyes of wrestling fans.
Right.
Like that book kind of does. It gives you a little bit of that reflection of culture, what people were into in 1942 and 1956. And I mean, you get into the late 50s and you talk about the fact that like we take for granted that there's just TV on all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like
now
and all the stuff that we have access to with just like streaming and
oh my gosh,
wrestling's at your fingertips in a way that it's never been before, which is incredible.
Amazing. Yeah. But also how marketable wrestling is.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's they did on TV. One of the first things they were like, how do we fill time? Let's put these wrestling shows on TV.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many parts of our country that was their answer was people. This is kind of like a sport, but it's not, and people seem really into it, and so
yeah,
it
just shows how enduring wrestling is, even for all the people who say it's fake or it's this or it's that, which it's all true. Like it's all true, but on the other hand, it's been around just as long. I mean, it's been around for 100 years. It's been around like as long as so much other stuff. And it's still not taken seriously in some cases. But I mean, it's clearly a form of entertainment that's been around for an entire century. Well, obviously longer than that. An entire century with a McMahon is what I was trying to get at. But yeah, it's just.
And it's always found its way to adapt to its time.
Yes.
And you can almost not say that about much. I mean, there are some things that just become obsolete by way of technology and some things but like how many businesses are out there at the end of the day? And it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a glorified carnival show. It's a main stage carnival event.
It is. Yeah, wrestling is very carny, and it always has been and always will be. So
I highly recommend the book so far. I haven't completely finished it, but even this far in, it's really, and Brian Solomon actually reads it. So if you're someone that's
cool
with stuff and everything,
that's very cool. Yeah, it sounds extremely
I'm really, 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 really glad that Dave and Garrett that they pulled that threw that one up on one of their evenings. They made it part of one of their Friday night deals. And also I got, I managed to read the 10 million word bio that Dave wrote about Vince as a kind of
I heard about that. I haven't read
it. And it actually is. I had a friend put it to me that someone should save that and make a show out of it. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Not to glorify, because it does not glorify in any way. It's a bio. It's this is this and this is this and this is this. It's not nice about any of the things.
Well, it shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
No, right. No,
it shouldn't be. It should be.
It's archival.
That's what I'm saying. It should be a historical record. It should not be.
It's very journalistic.
Right.
And it's journalistic archive.
Well, that's cool.
That I think when we're all having, like, when all this is over and 10 years from now or 20 years from now, when there's still wrestling fans that are around, like, what was it like at that time? Here's a way that you can read about where that guy came from. Sure. And then all these, but to bring that all the way back is highly recommend it. It's called Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real life story of the original wrestling's the original sheet.
Sounds very interesting, and so hopefully that people will go look into that for sure. And it sounds like, since it's on Audible, that sounds like people can find it pretty easily.
Yeah, I would imagine that the hard copies are easy to. I like to grab hard copies sometimes because I like to have the pictures.
Yeah,
but the reality of my brain is that it just stores information better when it's being read out loud to it. And
I understand.
There we are. And I guess the reason I really want to throw that in where we were is because we're getting to the the big talk.
Even though we've hinted at it and pretty much went right into it a few times.
Right.
It's because it's like I said, it's permeating everything. Like, it's not just the WWE thing. Like, it's hitting all types of, and it's hitting all wrestling companies. And now not only is it affecting AEW, it's now impacting Impact as well, because AEW hared Madison Rayne, who is still on TV on Impact. Like, it's funny because she was on they did a special episode of Dark on Thursday night, basically because they were trying to get Mance Warner's match in before his match with Mox, which I would like to say real quick was phenomenal. And Mance
thank you. We were trying to work out the chronological order.
It was because, and I had heard before the Rampage match was announced that he was there, and I was like, oh, he's backstage again, because he was backstage in 2020. The reason I know it was 2020 is because I wrote an article about it and why AEW should sign Mance Warner. And then it's just kind of been sitting there. And then, so I just thought he was backstage. And then somebody was like, no, I was reading through the replies and he wrestled Serpentico. And then, so I was like, oh, cool, he's going to be on Dark next week. And then they were like, he's wrestling Jon Moxley on Rampage. And I was like, what? And I was like, well, that's awesome. So I had wondered, I was like, I'm guessing Mox, I wonder if he requested that match, because obviously they have the GCW tie. Because if you're not familiar with GCW, Jon Moxley is currently their champion. And Mance has been over there forever. And Mance is in the Second Gear crew. Before Eddie Kingston came to AEW, he was in Second Gear crew with Mance Warner. Effie is in that group. So was one called Manders, and I think Matthew Justice is also in it as well. I feel like I'm leaving someone out. Mance Warner also has been he's been under, at the time that he visited AEW, he was still under contract with MLW, and he is no longer under contract with them, but still wrestles with them. But an interesting fact about him being in MLW is that he wrestled MJF, and the loser leaves MLW. MJF lost and went to AEW. And so now we're coming full circle. MJF is no longer in AEW as far as anyone knows. We don't exactly know.
We don't know what MJF,
and which was interesting. Yeah, because it was interesting too, because Sean Ross Sapp had an update a couple of days ago that there basically is no update. Nobody will admit to have. I won't say it. He's, I guess, asked people, and they have said they haven't spoken to him. He was like, I don't know if that's true or not, or if they're just like covering, or if it's kind of and I was like, well, CM Punk did that when he left WWE. He quit talking to everybody. So MJF, maybe he quit talking to everybody, or maybe he's still talking and they don't want to let things out. Who knows exactly what's happening there? But it's interesting because then Friday night, somebody had a pay MJF sign, which, and we had talked about, my friends and I had talked about how like everybody's kind of moved on from MJF. Like, I don't see people talking about him. I don't see them asking where he's at. Is he going to show up anywhere other than in my dreams, when he said he was coming back imminently, and then we thought maybe winter is coming because it was winter in my dream. So other than that, MJF has kind of been not there. But then it was just kind of an interesting coincidence that Mance is on Rampage, and then there's a pay MJF sign, and MJF lost to Mance in MLW to come to AEW. So it's just a kind of a really interesting thing. But that's why. But so yeah, that was why. Well, it was two reasons. It was for the Mance match, so people who were not familiar with Mance could be like, why the hell is Mox just randomly wrestling some indie dude? Right. Like, why is this happening? And it ended up being the barn burner I expected it to be. Like, and they got the promo in front of the fans, which is what I think was most important, because Mance is a fantastic promo, and that promo he cut at the end of Elevation was fantastic. And then they showed it again on Rampage. But then it also set up Madison Rayne. So on Wednesday before Dynamite, it was announced that Madison Rayne was hired as a coach for the women's division. And then when we get to the very next night, when they aired this special, this is like a 24-minute episode of Elevation. It was 3 matches, but they packed in a lot and it served a lot of purposes. And so they made it clear that she is the head coach, because the PR, the press release that went out on Wednesday just said coach. But they were clear to make sure that they said head coach. They said it several times throughout the thing, throughout the night. And then even so, after the women's match, Jade came out. She used her cut the shit line that she usually uses on Tony. She used it on Madison, who she calls Maddie. She's like, or whatever your name is. And then Soak comes out too, and he introduces them, and she's like, oh, well, not only am I head coach, I'm also an in-ring competitor, which is not surprising considering Sanjay Dutt, QT, Marshall, they're also in-ring competitors as well. So it makes sense. So she was on Elevation, but then she was also, that same night she was on Impact. And then she wrestled Friday night and is wrestling next Thursday. She's wrestling Mia Yim on Impact as well. So I don't know if this just came together really quickly, and obviously Impact tapes 4 weeks in advance. So I don't know if because they did, she and Tanil Dashwood are the Influence, which is the tag team in Impact. And they just recently, they just added Giselle Shaw. So I don't know if Giselle was added to kind of replace Madison. Like maybe they knew Madison was on the way out, so they brought in Giselle for Tanil, or how this, I haven't really heard how this came about yet. So I don't know how this is going to affect Madison. But then we see Christopher Daniels, who is he's the head of talent relations in AEW, pops up on BTE all the time in his hoodie, telling them to sign their paperwork. But so we've seen him compete in Impact. So I don't know if she's completely done with Impact. I would kind of assume so, since she's got the head coach position.
Well, that's going to be a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
only so many people have Tony Khan's energy level. So
that's a very good point. So then we have Madison was like, maybe I'm coming to take your title. And Jade was like, no, you're going to wrestle the baddie wannabe Layla first. And so she had her first match within 48 hours of being announced with AEW. So things moved very quickly. And it seems like, and then she had a really solid match. Her and Layla wrestled for 8.5 minutes on Friday night, which was, for Rampage, is pretty solid. They tend to be a bit shorter. We've seen the 2.5 minute matches recently on Rampage, so it was nice to have a nice long 8.5 minute match. And then we have Jade come out, and she invited her to challenge her for the title next week. And then Kiera Hogan tried to attack her, and Madison, she reversed it, and her move, it's interesting, her finisher is called the Cross Reigns. So it is the Crossroads that she's doing, but they're calling it the Cross Reigns. So I thought that was
interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't catch it the first time, but then I was writing an article about what happened or the most important thing that happened on Rampage, and so I went back and listened to the clip, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, her finisher is the Cross Reign. I was like, and Dustin has been coaching the women, so it's just really interesting. And then we've seen Thunder Rosa. She uses I can't think of the name of the move, but it's where she goes down to the ground and she does kind of like the uppercut under the chin, like from the knee, which Cody did a lot too. And so Dustin kind of gave her that move. So it's interesting that they kind of have Cody's fingerprints on things still in the women's division. So it's really, I thought that was interesting. So I saw some people kind of complaining that Madison was already getting a title shot, but I was like, they got to keep things fresh for Jade. Jade she's got to have 33 wins. They're trying to get her to 40, possibly to 50. So they're keeping her away from Athena for a little bit, which is the smart thing to do. So I was like, it establishes Madison as both the head coach and an in-ring competitor.
That's what I was just thinking.
Which I think was the whole point. Like, we know Jade's going to retain. Like, we all know that.
Right.
So I think given her, and it's an authority figure that she's going against, because she kind of has the issue with Tony Schiavone, who is somewhat of an authority figure. And then so she kind of has, Jade obviously just does whatever she wants, even though Stoke kind of tries to rein her in a little bit, which Smart Mark Sterling kind of tried to rein her in a little bit as well. And we saw how that ended with him. So I think, I don't have a problem with her wrestling Madison. It's something fresh. It gives her something to do. It's not, I don't know that Madison is going to be, maybe she'll be on TV as often. Well, QT is not always on TV. He's usually on YouTube, but QT is always around doing something. So maybe, but yeah, so it's very interesting that so was this a direct response to what WWE is doing? I don't know. Maybe I would assume they were already talking about Madison. Maybe the timing just happened to be when all this stuff is going on in WWE. But I think it's smart to announce it in the way that they did, because it's showing that they are being proactive. And that they are, because like, so you have on Raw, you have Bailey and Io, she's now Io Sky.
Io Sky,
and Dakota Kai. You have them, and then you have them in this stable, and they are heavily featured. The women were heavily featured on Raw, and so that Wednesday Dynamite put the women's match at 8:30, which the long running joke with them is that the women wrestle between at like 9, generally at 9:20. It's usually when they go. It's almost like it's a running joke that it's always at that time. So they wrestled at 8:30. They wrestled. There were 4 women involved. It was Thunderstorm versus Britt and Jamie. So they got 4 women, and they wrestled for 12 and a half minutes, which is a little bit longer than they typically get on Dynamite. Dynamite tends to be 7 to 9 minutes, sometimes 10. So it's really, it kind of felt like it was in response to what WWE is doing. Then you kind of pair that, and then they wrestled on Rampage. They had yes, it was Madison, and it was her. She's the coach and things like that. So maybe that was part of the reason. But they had an 8.5 minute match, and then last night. Obviously, with pay-per-views, they tend to do longer matches, but the match last night was 11 and a half minutes, which shorter than what Thunder Rosa has been doing on pay-per-view. She usually wrestles 15 and a half minutes, but they still got, pretty decent time last night. So it kind of seems like maybe some of this is in response to WWE. It was also announced that they trademarked All Elite Women. We don't know what that is yet. It could be a lot of people, and my first assumption was that it was an all women's wrestling show, which is what I hope it is. I don't know necessarily if that's what it is. Another thing that leads me to believe that is because they trademarked that, like in the filing that was released, there was stuff about pay-per-view and streaming and video on demand. So it sounds like potentially. But then some people are wondering if it's going to be an all women's show, kind of like Total Divas, like in that type of thing. And somebody else was like, well, what if they do kind of a Talking Smack type of thing where it's all women just being interviewed and stuff like that, which is fascinating. Some people thought maybe it's a new version of AEW Hills, so there are a lot of possibilities. But it sounds like, and in that same filing, it was talking about how now it was stuff about trademarking like dolls and action figures and board, which of course it doesn't mean they're all, that all these things are going to happen, but it sounds like they are changing their marketing tactics of the women's division. And it leaked. The video game, the Fight Forever video game cover leaked, and Britt Baker and Jade Cargill are on that cover. So there are men on the cover, but they do have 2 women. In an image that leaked, Abaddon is in the game, and it is believed to be that they are the first non-binary wrestler to be in a video game. And if Nyla Rose, she should be in the game because she is a champion, our former champion, that she would be, it is thought that she would be the first transgender woman to be in a wrestling video game. So it seems like AEW is making some really big strides. Again, it's kind of that same thing with WWE where you don't want to get too excited until you see what actually is going to be. But and again, the timing, is it because some of this obviously has been in the work for a while. It sounds like the All Elite Women trademark is probably in the works for a while, but it is interesting to see like the timing of everything with WWE. And I wrote an article about it. One of the things that I pointed out was, WWE seems to be putting their foot down with how they're presenting women. Impact has long had what people think is the best women's division in the United States. And they brought Matt. And so it seems like, okay, well, we're going to get Madison Rayne from Impact because she's been a part of that division. She's a multi-time champion. She's been wrestling for 15 plus years. Again, why I think they should bring Maria in. It would make sense. Yeah. And then I was like, then you have MLW has the featherweight division, which I'm not 100% sure is still active, but I know Taya Valkyrie was the champion with that. Shimmer's coming to TV in September. New Japan doesn't even have a women's division, and they're getting a joint title with Stardom in November. So basically, I'm at the point where AEW has to step it up or they're going to get left behind. Is how, I don't think there's any other way to put it, is that, they are going to have to do some things, and they can't just do, 2 women's matches on Dynamite is not the answer. That doesn't solve the problem. Like, it's got to be more, more TV time, more storylines, more character development, which Impact is really good at doing. WWE, if that's where Triple H is going, like it was in NXT, they have a good, they are good at that. I mean, of course, and again,
the NXT women's division was one of the best products, women's wrestling products that WWE ever put out.
100% agree.
With the as the women's wrestling was concerned.
Yes, agree.
That was far and away. That was like the first time they let them have the time and the mic and the whole thing.
Yeah,
like go wrestle.
Yeah, and have a character, and have a well-rounded character at that, and we don't rely on the old tropes of she's taking my man, or she's in the cattiness,
or just conversations that would never happen.
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
I'm like, I'm very awkward with other women, but I wouldn't even have this bad of a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So they made it. Yeah, they were more realistic. And like, I remember when they first put together, when it was Liv and Ruby and was it Sarah Rowe that was with them? I think it was the 3 of them. But when they first got people were commenting, they were like, there's no way these 3 would be friends in real life. And I'm like, clearly you don't know women. You think women are only pretty people are friends with pretty people, and only like sporty people are friends, or only nerds are friends with nerds. Like, you don't realize that. Yes, the women generally, a lot of women have really diverse friend groups, and they have people that they're, and I was like, and it turns out the 3 of them are extremely close in real life. And so it just goes to, so it's nice to have friendships like that on TV too. And that it's not all catty. Cause like the diva, and one of the things I hated about the divas was that everything was so catty. Like, it was always just the worst stereotypes of what women are. And I hated that. That's how they were portrayed. Because that's just reinforces what a lot of people believe. Even we've had the conversation about how women we've had to unlearn a lot of things because of what was shown to us in the media. And I think, and we've talked about how wrestling is a reflection of that. So it's nice to see, women being empowered to do stuff outside of the box, and outside of the norm. And it seems like Triple H might be getting back to that in WWE, which would be fantastic. And so AEW is going to have to do that too.
I mean, it'll be good because it will sort of force AEW's hand. I think one of the things, and this may be communication, but I also happen to think that it's, when you're an in-ring talent, and you kind of have you get a bit of a storyline. Like, this is where we're sort of going with this. And they're not going to tell you the whole thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of freedom at AEW, and not everybody knows how to tell a story. Not everybody knows about protagonists and antagonists. And I think it's important. It's like, I actually have asked this question a few times, and I mean, no one's going to know the answer except the people inside that office. But it's like, do they have storyboard meetings once a week? Because it's something you should do, because it's not, when they were in the gym doing neck bridges and, you know, whatever all else, suplexes and whatnot, no one was teaching you how to, you know, rising action and, you know, stories have structure, just like a wrestling match has structure.
Sure. Right.
So I learned the structure of the wrestling match, but I wasn't like taking story stuff on the side.
And not everybody has it. Most people don't have a PC to learn these things. So like they've got, I mean, just because AEW doesn't, I mean, Impact doesn't have it either. And like most companies don't have a performance center where they go and they learn these things. And so, yeah.
But also, I mean, I think that they're a little bit I mean, it's very scripted at WWE, so they're force-fed it. I think that the other extreme of that is being so open that you're asking people to perform a skill that they don't have.
Well, and that is, I want to bring this up, and I know that Big Swole is a lightning rod for some people, but that is one of the things she talked about, was that it's great that they have all of this creativity and these freedoms, but some of these people, especially in the women's division, they've never had that before. Like, they don't know how to cut promos. They don't know how to be the ones that tell the story. Like you said, they know the structure of a match, but they're not comfortable being put in these situations where they are driving the story with promos and story and, you know, character. And like you said, if they're not storyboard and stuff, they're not going to know what to do. And so I think that kind of goes back to some of what Big Swole was saying, is that, that they are given it. On the one hand, it's really great for a lot of people to not have that structure and just to be able to say whatever they want, especially if they came from WWE where everything was so rigorous and they had to say things a certain way. But then for the people who don't have that background, they are kind of lost and they don't know exactly what to do. And I'm sure Dustin Rhodes is, obviously people assume because of Dusty and how Dusty was great at storytelling, and I think Dustin has kind of taken over some of that, but that's kind of that's also unfair of him to ask Dustin Rhodes to be his father and to do the things that,
because to be the only person. I mean, my father was a soccer coach, and one of the things he did a lot, but he was often a women's soccer coach. And one of the things that he did very often was to have a female assistant coach with him, because there's things that he knew he didn't understand. That's having daughters.
Right. Yeah.
And he still was like, look, if I have daughters and I know that there's things that I still don't get, then there's definitely going to be moments when I think sometimes you need to if one lady just needs to be able to go to another lady and be like, do you know what I'm saying? And then have the other lady go, I absolutely know what you're saying.
And I guess they kind of
that works both ways.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Is equally as true if you wanted me to, like, I was talking about this very thing with a friend recently, is that dudes don't have any of that when it comes, like, if I don't like you, I don't hang out with you, and that's it. And that's not something that necessarily is true for women. Or I mean, it was like a simple, but it's like, it's just true, guys. We are different. Holy crap. But I mean, I think maybe having someone with the breadth of experience as her, and maybe, I mean, again, we don't know what her role was necessarily at Impact, but certainly with as much experience as she has, you can't sit there and pretend that they didn't talk to her about stuff.
Right. And then, Serena Deeb has been there, and she had been doing some coaching as well. But she also has the WWE background because she was a PC coach for several years. So she has kind of that stuff as well. But I don't know, again,
she was treated a lot differently by the WWE in general, I think, because when you're not Mandy Rose looking, I think that you get a different. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that you were treated totally differently if you look like Serena Deeb than if you look like Mandy Rose.
Right,
I mean,
definitely.
It's simple, but
right, and it's true. And so now they've got, and then we don't really know when Kenny is coming back, and so Kenny probably has not, before he was injured, he was really hands-on with the women's division. I don't know what it's been since he's been injured, and he's clearly not there week to week, where a Dustin Rhodes or a Serena Deeb and now a Madison Rayne is, which I think the women probably need that type of consistency where there's somebody, and it sounds like from what I understand, Dustin kind of goes through, and Serena is the same way, that they gotta go through like drills with them and teaching them and helping them practice, especially some of the women who, are mostly on like dark and elevation and things like that, which is phenomenal. But I think that Madison, and one of the things that Madison, I think, will be really good at, she's phenomenal with the camera. She's really good at knowing where the camera is. And I think she's going to be, so I think she can probably help them more with like the storytelling side of things. I still do think they should bring Maria in for the creative and more the storyline type of things. But I think Maria in conjunction with Madison could be huge for the women's division. Like, I think Madison can do a lot, and it's not to take away anything from Madison. She may have fantastic ideas, and maybe she has creative ideas.
It's a pretty big division. It gives you more voices, and
now you've got
Kenny's got a lot of things to focus on when he comes back. That we don't know exactly what's happening with Ring of Honor, and if they're going to get their own division and their TV stuff, then you're going to have coaches there as well. So maybe you have Serena do the ROH side of things, because they are more technically based with the stories they tell. So maybe Serena moves over to the ROH side, and they keep Madison on the AEW side. Again, with Ring of Honor, you would think, and because Maria basically revitalized the Women of Honor last summer and what she was doing there. So it would make sense to have her kind of involved with that, especially because it seems like they're using Willow more often. I hope that they've signed her to some sort of deal the way they keep using her. Trisha Dora had been signed right before. I hope they're bringing her back as well. And so they're going to be refilling that women's division. So they're going to need coaches there too. And so, it seems so. Like, as we've said, competition is obviously, it's good for everybody. It should push them to do more. And so now, like I said, we've got Shimmer coming next month. That is all women. That's, AJ Lee is behind all of that. And you have someone like her, of her caliber, with these women. And so they're coming to TV. So that's another option for people to see, and they're going to see how, and of course it's all women, so it's going to be different than how, AEW and even WWE and Impact are run. But you're going to see what they're doing with their women, and wondering why, these companies aren't doing the same thing. Like, these women have time to have characters, they can build, like, and of course, you're going to have to, because it is all women, they have to run the show, so they do have to have the stories and the characters, but you need to be doing that on national TV as well. And so that's been an issue, that's been a concern with AEW for 3 years now. And so it seems like WWE is recommitting. WWE hears this stuff. They know that's been a complaint. So they're going to be like, okay, well, clearly people want that, and that's an issue that they're not getting, and that's an issue with AEW that's not getting fixed. So I'm going to fix it, and this is how we're going to do it. And so I think it seems like it. So it seems like maybe it is already pushing AEW a little bit, because they got the longer matches. They got the match on earlier. Is this something that they keep? And so it would be nice to kind of see them push each other. And then Impact is still doing their thing, and they still have a really strong women's division. Like, you have Masha Slamovich, who is 14-0 now. Oh, yeah. But it's not in the same way that Jade is. It's a kind of it's kind of a different thing, because Masha is she's a different type of wrestler. Her style is different. Her presentation is different. She doesn't get on the microphone. She's just basically she's just this ass kicker. Not that Jade's not, but it's just this completely different representation of how it's being handled. And then you've got Deonna Purrazzo, and you've got Tasha Steelz, and she's got Savannah now. And so there's a lot of good women over there. And Impact has been kind of, a lot of people, when they talk about women's wrestling on TV, Impact is one that they keep going to. And so maybe luring Madison away from Impact is to kind of bring some of that Impact over to AEW. Let's hope so. I mean, let's hope that it's a good.
Again,
any change is a change for the better.
Yeah,
so.
and again, cautiously optimistic, just like with WWE.
AEW happens.
Just because they're AEW does not mean that I'm automatically going to think, because I've seen how they've handled this women's division and how we get a few things going forward, and then we're right back to where we were. So hopefully they just continue to push each other and women just get better representation on TV. That's what I hope comes out of all of it.
Agreed. That's always the hope, is that it just makes wrestling better.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
My goodness.
We've been talking for a long time.
We have. And other than telling people go watch the Yano and Filthy Tom match, I don't think we're going to get into that too hard. So
yeah. So yeah, I thought I was only one night behind on G1, and then I realized I was 2. And so I watched all of night 11, and I'm on night 12. I got to Jay White versus Greatest Okan. And then that's when the Fire Stick started messing up, but they were also live at the same time, and I didn't realize it, and so it started kind of messing with the feed, and so I'm gonna have to watch the matches from today plus the 2 last night. So I've got 7 matches to watch. But I watched 7 matches. I watched 7 matches yesterday, getting caught up on G1, not even counting the 3 from Battle of the Belts on top of that. So
I'm kind of picking and choosing right now, because it's
probably the smarter thing
real
to do.
struggle. I'm still kind of grumpy about, like, I was thinking I was getting a real G1, and also, like, I don't, this change with the 4 blocks thing, I'm not sure where I stand on it. I'm not trying to be like, I hate change, it's bad. I'm trying to, it's tough. It's been tough with me.
Yeah, I can see why it's tough, but I cannot keep track of who is in what block, really. I just know, I'm like, okay, it's a match. Like, I kind of know basically who's in the A block, and then, like, I kept, because Finley has been because he was the C block champion a couple years ago, and I'm like, oh wait, no, he's actually in the D block, not in the C block. And so I'm all over like, I never remember who was in what block. I'm like, okay, a match. And then
that being said, ZSJ versus Kenta was one hell of a slap fest, and I enjoyed the hell out of that. I know that was earlier in the thing. And a bunch of the Ishii matches have been, obviously, Ishii's worth seeing all the time. So but, I've been kind of picking.
I know you're picking and choosing. Matches. However, if you are Yano versus Archer ended up being like, I knew it was going to be good just because I enjoy Yano matches, but Archer played really well.
I'm excited for that one, actually.
I watched that one last night. Like, I just out loud laughing throughout the match. Like, I knew I would enjoy it just because it's Yano, but Archer played really well with it, and it was even better than I expected. And I was like literally just laughing out loud all match long.
Well, and after hearing Lance on the commentary a little bit during the other match, where he was saying, I was like, okay, now I definitely have to check that match out. I'm interested. He definitely was playing with that, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, again, I really enjoyed how they've done. Yeah, because ELP was great on commentary. Tom Lawler's been on commentary twice now. He's been really fun on commentary. Lance was great. Chris Troughton is back now. He was back for
it's the Tokyo area thing. Yes. So when they leave the Tokyo area,
so he was back for this morning's episode. Oh, actually, the night before, because they were somebody made a sign for ELP that's extremely lame pooper.
Oh,
so Chris and Kevin had a great time with it.
That's gonna be worth watching.
The matches
too are. You know what? I love sophomoric humor, so they can have as much fun as they
I was
want.
like, they are never gonna let him live that sign down. I was like, they were like, I don't know what it means, but so they were just joking about it, and it was really good. It's probably going to be something they reference throughout, the kind of like they were with the protein powder in the beginning. And so, it's nice to have them back. They're fun. But if you haven't seen, Yano versus Tom Lawler more than lived up to what I thought it was going to be. It was so much fun. I loved it.
Just was real good. Real good.
It was really just the stuff that they brought into it. Tom Lawler was prepared as far as like getting in with the really funny stuff.
Oh, the trading of the videos thing about
that
fielding.
was I was
or of the videos of the DVD.
The DVDs.
Of that side.
So good. Yeah, it was fantastic. And then I would also like to say, without going, David Finlay has been incredible in this G1.
Yeah.
There's always a standout in G1, and it's usually someone you wouldn't expect, which is one of the fun things about the G1. But Finlay has just been killing it. Like I mean, his match with Juice was really great. Then he had a really great match with I have it written down. And then it was because he snuck a win out. Who was it? I should know because it was a really good match, and I was surprised. And then he had the match with Ospreay, which was really fantastic. And he's just been. I'm glad that Finlay is getting his moment with, because like we talked about before, he wait, there was Finlay and Ospreay. Where was the other one? Finlay. Where did it go? Oh, well, no, that's Finlay versus Juice there. I have it, and there's so many notes and so many matches. But anyway, the point is, Finlay Finlay's been great. He's needed this, like we talked about before. Juice has kind of always overshadowed him just because Juice has such a big personality. Juice is I think Juice is a really great wrestler. I love Finn Juice, and Finlay is a good wrestler, and I'm glad that he's getting to shine more in this G1, and he's more serious, and he's more like he's tired of it. He's tired of how he's been treated, and so it's just propelled him to a completely other level, which is really nice to see. And so I'm almost just like, just let him win the whole thing. Just let David Finlay win. I don't care.
That'd be great.
So G1 still has some good stuff going on over there. And we'll get more into it because we're winding down. The next Thursday, the 18th, will be the finale. And no, we will not be going live on Thursday. No. We've already discussed that. We were like, oh, it's a Thursday. Never mind. No live show for us. But we will be talking about it. And there's good stuff there. And you're getting down to the semifinals, which is new this year. Well, I mean, it's new as far as they've got how they're doing it.
The way it's set up.
Yeah. And so, which makes it more entertaining, and it definitely adds something to it. And so it's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, what I've seen, I've had fun with. Again, it's not like gotta jump out of bed and do it. But
yeah, I mean,
I've been trying, but I haven't like bailed on it either. I'm still interested.
Yeah.
So I've been definitely watching just, when I can, and as much as I can keep up, I kind of go through the cards and go definitely,
Yeah.
So.
And there's generally always some surprises where you're just like, oh, that ended up being, a lot better than I like. Even the Yano and Archer match was just a lot more fun than I expected to be. And just the Finlay matches have been on another level. And then there's just been a lot of good stuff. Oh, and I meant to say this last week, and then Nikki had thought, and she's like, "Oh, I thought about it, but I didn't want to interrupt." We were talking about Bad Dude Tito because we've talked about Royce Isaacs and the stuff he's been doing with Team Filthy and Tom over there, but Bad Dude Tito, which I really have got a lot of exposure with him through Strong, and we were talking about how he looks like a dude who will kick your ass, but also he's super nice. Like he will not kick your ass if he doesn't have to. But if it gets to that point, or he's the guy that he's the friend that you want to have who's super cool and chill. But if things get bad, or if somebody's getting out of line, he will be the one that stands up and is like, no, we're not doing this. I was like, he just seems like he's a really cool dude, and I really like him a lot. I'm glad they've used him in Japan with Jonah, and that they've officially added him to TMDK and Strong right before all this. And so I really enjoy Bad Dude Tito a lot, and I just wanted to throw that out there since I forgot to do it last week.
Nice.
But yeah, so we are at the 2-hour mark. So I think we've talked a lot about a lot of things today. So I think this might be a good place to end it, unless there's anything you want to add.
Nope, I think this is perfect. I think we'll have plenty to talk about next week.
It seems never ending, like we talked about. It seems like there's always something going on now.
You never know. We can't run out of topics. That's the good news.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this week, and we will be back next week. And we all hope you have a good week, and make sure you're following us. And I have not put up any of the things.
No, I wasn't even thinking about it there.
Yeah, we've been terrible. So hold on. We'll put all
right,
of the things. We'll get it all in. Make sure you're following Fight Game Media on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to the YouTube. There's all kinds of really great content out there, and we have some people who work really hard and do a lot of cool stuff. You can follow Mel and I with Powerbombshells on Twitter. We tweet out all kinds of stuff over there. You can follow us individually. I am still live tweeting G1 when I get to it, so usually late at night, but they are there. And then way down somewhere in here, we've got the Instagram.
And
same
there's
handle
some
as
wrestling
Twitter
shows coming up,
yes.
And you might see some new pictures.
Yes, and I'm gonna put some more pictures from NJ High Alert, but last night was the 2-year anniversary, so they did like a show. I haven't seen it yet, but they did like highlights from the last 2 years. So maybe next week they'll start kind of highlighting shows from that were taped for Alert, and so I'll add some more pictures over there. But make sure you're following us. And like she said, we've got some upcoming shows, so we'll post. And I still need to post the picture that I mentioned last week of me and Nikki with Liger, I think is what it was.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So just make sure you're following us there, and follow Fight Game Media. And sorry we were slack and forgot to do it. But it's been one of those weeks. Hey. And we made it, and I did not take that down.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Blink. I took it down.
Thank you.
And so if you guys are ready and set, and we will see you next week, and you have a good one.
Yes. Bye.